150 miles southeast of Memphis, along the Tennessee River, are the four small towns of Florence, Tuscumbia, Sheffield, and Muscle Shoals, Alabama. From this spot, deep in the Bible Belt and a stronghold of the Ku Klux Klan, came many other defining records of the soul music era. From a studio called Fame, run by former country fiddle player and songwriter Rick Hall.
It was tough. You got to remember, this was in the 60s. And this was when George Wallace was standing in the schoolhouse door at the University of Alabama. It's when the National Guard came to Arkansas. These are tough times, and they didn't, black people I had no problem with. If I had a problem with anybody, it was white people who didn't like me socializing or recording black music in Alabama with this all going on.
When a Man Loves a Woman by Percy Sledge brought the sound of Muscle Shoals to the attention of Jerry Wexler, who was looking for a new southern studio after a falling out with Stax. And in 1966, he sent Wilson Pickett down to Alabama to meet Rick Hall.
I get off the plane, Southern Airlines, and here this long, tall white man, we call him Peckerwoods, back in. He walked up like he'd known me for 500 years. Hey, Wilson, come on, we're going to cut some funky records. Boy, we're going to really cut some records. Come on, Wilson, come on. I said, wait, I'm nervous, you know what I mean? Now, what does white man know about producing a Wilson Pickett? Well, I'm telling you, I'm going to show you the studio. I'm going to show you. Well, we went through the cotton patch. People still picking cotton. Out there, I said, is that what I see what I think it is? Yeah, Wilson, they're still picking cotton down there. We still picking cotton. This studio was right over. You could see a studio from the cotton patch. 1, 2, 3. And I have to tell you this. We cut Mustang Sally, all that funky Broadway, the land of 1,000 whole dances.
These players in Muscle Shoals were all Caucasians. Now this seems to confound perceived wisdom and all the logic of the music professors and the commentators. How could authentic soul music and blues come out of a situation like this?
We get accused of being country fans. Now, I don't know, Spooner might have been into it a little bit, but I think David and I basically came from listening to Jimmy Reed and Bo Diddley and Chuck Berry. And that's what, my first inspiration to play guitar is when I heard a local guy play Johnny B. Good. And I said, I got to learn how to do that, And that's how it all started for me. It was an inspirational moment.
Jerry Lee Lewis, when he came around, through the airways, whole lot of shaking and that sort of thing, that was one form. And of course the Ray Charles on the other side, the rhythm and blues side, that was wonderful for me to hear. And then there was a Grand Ole Opry, All those things were coming in at once, so I took it all in.
In January 1967, the homespun studio band in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, aided in the birth of a superstar, when Jerry Wexler brought in an artist newly signed to Atlantic.
I didn't know who Aretha was. The only thing I knew was that her father was the Reverend Franklin, who I listened to at WLAC in Nashville, coming home from gigs a lot of nights.
You are to me. If you anticipate failure, believe me, you're going to fail.
I knew it was his daughter, and she'd been a secret almost in the music business. She'd never had, I don't think, even a mediocre hit at the time with CBS. They didn't know what to do with her.
When you went and left me there crying, your goodbye was even colder than I.
CBS Records produced Aretha singing easy jazz and pop, moving her away from the gospel music she had grown up with in her father's church. But when Jerry Wexler picked up Aretha's contract, he immediately brought her to Muscle Shoals, hoping for an environment where she could bring her natural gospel gifts to the music.
I recall we started recording, I think, 10, 11 o'clock, which we usually did. And the studio was full of musicians. We had them three deep out in the lobby, meaning that if the bass player, we had 3 bass players, if one couldn't cop the lick, we'd bring in another one and fire him. That's how important the sessions were. When Aretha came in and sat down at the piano, Spooner Oldham was playing electric piano, Wurlitzer. And I've always thought, and I think Aretha would agree to this, that his little part that he was playing was so important to the record that everybody just kind of fell into his groove.
When we played that song, in my mind I thought, well, it doesn't have a specific meter really. So the band just sort of looked at each other after it's finished, like, well, what do we do? I mean, where do we go now? So we were just all basically off in our little worlds trying to figure a rhythm or riff. And I just happened to be the one that, I guess, formulated this little pattern, and it started.
You're no good, heartbreaker. You're a liar and you're a cheat. And I don't know why I let you do these things to me.
Everybody was a little uptight, including myself. I was a nervous wreck because Wexler was standing over my shoulder always when I'm engineering. I believe Tom was here, Tom Dowd, sitting over there someplace, and between the two of them and the directions I were getting, I was, no, turn him down. Wait a minute, you're losing the singer. Bring up the horn. The guitar's wiping everything out, and we didn't have sliders in those days. We had turn pots, you turned them up and down. So it was an exciting, very exciting time.
There was a ruckus. One of the horn players and Aretha's then husband, Ted White, got into it. They'd been drinking from the same jug, and now this real, camaraderie and great palship turned into some kind of alcoholic hostility. Well, the session blew up, and instead of staying there for a week to complete the whole album, everybody went back where they came from. Ted and Aretha went to Detroit, I went to New York. I had this wonderful record. It was finished, and I Never Loved a Man. And I had a 3-piece track on the B-side called Do Right Woman. We cut the acetates on I Never Loved a Man and sent it out to the disc jockeys, and it was a tidal wave response. And our distributors and the store said, let's have the record. No record. We had no B-side. And it took me quite a while, a couple of weeks, to find Aretha. Well, we found her. She came to New York with her sisters. She and her sisters finished this record with no other help.
When it was finally released in the spring of 1967, I Never Loved a Man, backed with Do Right Woman, exploded to the top of the charts. The decade that began with Berry Gordy carefully polishing songs and performers to conform to white middle-class tastes had reached a point where music with deep African-American roots was being embraced the world over.